y'all, what is up? It's your girl Becky and I am back. I just got out of home quarantine because I got the virus unfortunately last week, but now I'm back and I'm ready to do another sketch venture with y'all. Today's scene is just a local garden. I didn't want to go anywhere too far, you know, not just because the sky looks like it's about to break into rain any minute, but I also kind of want to take it easy, like I'm still recovering, so not gonna go for any crazy adventures for now. So in case it does rain, I am going to look for somewhere with a little bit of shelter. Although it's just drizzling for a little bit, it's nothing too crazy. And there's so much to sketch, even just this garden. Like there's this little arc thing where you can sit down. There's this playground that's a bit closed. There's all these plants, all these foliage. So I'm just gonna walk around a little bit and see what I wanna do. Another reason why to look for a place to sit in the shade is because the seats are all wet from the rain earlier, so I don't want to sit on a wet surface. All right, it does look like sitting inside this shade, this arch thing, might be my only option around, and we'll have a look around at what we can sketch. Let's do a really simple scene, or I guess when I say simple, I mean we will simplify it. So I'm thinking of doing this, just this part of the playground, and that's it. We're not gonna do anything else, just that little quote-unquote building, and we will try and break it down into simple shapes, and then we'll sketch in the shadows. I always mention that all my sketching supplies live in the front of my bag, so I am going to prove it. Here I have my watercolors and I have my sketchbook. Today I'm thinking of going through a very simple pen and ink wash. This is a Waterbrush that I filled in with some fountain pen ink and also some water to dilute it a little bit. And I'm going to use my handy dandy fountain pen right here. Since I use this Waterbrush quite a bit, I thought I would just explain really quick how I get ink here and what I mean by diluting it. And I'll show you the whole refilling process. So this is a regular water brush. You can see from the name that it is a pentel water brush. It's just a regular size, and the brush tip right here is black in color, mainly because the ink that I'm using has a black tint to it. The ink that I use for this is Noodler's ink. It is called Lexington Gray. Don't mind this cap got damaged, but you can still use the ink. So I'm just gonna set it down there. This is the ink, Lexington Gray right there. This is a blunt tip syringe, which I use all the time to fill up my fountain pens, and now it's actually quite useful to fill up water brushes as well, because you can kind of gauge how much ink you put in and how much water as well. And paper towels are extremely important, especially if you are trying to transport ink from one place to another, be it an ink bottle to a pen, ink bottle to a water brush, just because there's always a chance for it spilling and you want to try and contain that damage if you can. So what I'm going to do first is, actually I'm going to open this up. So this is the water brush. I'm not going to clean it out because it's really just filled in with the same ink. And it is about half full, but I'm going to try and fill it all the way through. So I'm just going to hold it vertically like so. This is my ink bottle that I'm going to open up really carefully. I am going to touch the paper towel on top of the rim. This is just something that I always do because it does prevent some spillings or prevents cap overflow in general. You don't have to do this. I think it'll be fine if you don't do this. And what I'm going to do is I'm just gonna grab a little bit of ink there. I'm going to put in some drops of ink. Do I want the whole thing? Yeah, probably. So this is where you can kind of experiment. You don't have to stick with a certain type of exact measure or an exact science. If it's too dark for you, just dunk it out and add in more water. Or if it's not enough, ink for you, then dunk it out as well, or just add more ink. So with the same syringe, I'm just going to pull some water. I'm gonna pour it in there. I know they have a suggested fill limit, which is this line. I always ignore it. Never gave me trouble. It's full. I'm going to screw this back on. And now we have a fully filled brush pen that's filled with diluted ink. So if I test it out, this is what the ink looks like. You can squish it. If you squish it a little bit more, the ink is just going to go out. And you can see that it's a lighter shade than the ink itself, and that's because we diluted it with water. The water that I used here is just tap water. I know some people prefer to use distilled water just because it has a lower chance of contaminating the ink, but honestly you'd be fine with just tap water. And now let's return outside. Alright guys, we are going to start the sketch. This, I should mention, is a Kaweco Sport filled with a waterproof black ink, which I will link to in the description down below. I would really recommend to just go with whatever your local shop has. So, I'm going to start with a big shape. It's raining. It's okay. I will let that splotch live there. Okay, so most of these bottom part is going to be covered with plants, but I don't want to draw the plants in because I don't want them to be the focus of the sketch. I want this structure to be the focus of the sketch. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to instead fill in the plants later with an ink wash, and I'm just going to merge it all into one shape. Going to add some details because we are pretty much done with this drawing. It's really quick and simple. Don't need to spend too much on it. We spent literally 4 minutes on it. And it's time to close this pen. Now you can see the splotches of the water down there. And we're gonna take out our water brush. And also it is really starting to rain, so I do have to go back and seek shelter really soon. So the ink wash. We'll start with the darkest bits, and the good thing about ink wash is you could always build up the layers, so you don't really need to worry about it not being dark enough, because you can just go over it once again and it'll give you the darkness that you want. And here I'm just going to find all the dark spots, so anything that is in dark green I'm just going to color in with this. There, so it's mainly the poles. I know there are some details here as well that I'm going to color in. There are some numbers. I'm going to quickly etch them in. Some shapes I can see from behind the plants. Cool, so that is the first layer done. Now I'm gonna try and go back in over again and see if I can darken these shapes. So I'm basically just adding a second layer. I kind of want to put this in shadow as well, because it is in shadow. And so usually the trick is I would just go over the thickest part first. Sorry, the darkest part first, so that they would eventually be built up to become thicker. And now that I have all these space behind, I am going to start plotting in the background shapes with just a wash. So as a result, these structures will have a lot of softer edges because they won't have that hard black line. And people will know that this is not really the focus. So I'm not too focused on accuracy on the back here. I just wanted to get some stuff in so it's not empty. I can see that these have dried. So the thing about building up layers is you got to do it slowly. I'm just gonna add more details here, a little bit of detail there. Let me see if I can add the tile slash scale shape on the structure right here. I did make a mistake here. I didn't measure the proportions, or didn't get the proportions right. Right, so that is pretty much the shapes that I want, and I am going to go over the plants now in the very front. Wait, let me just add this. The problem with spending too much time on your sketch is you just want to keep adding to things. Alright, I'm going to start drawing the plants in. And I'm aware that they are transparent. And they would be translucent, as in the background will still show. And that's okay. Gonna add the patches of grass or plants down here that are a little bit more thick compared to these sparse leaves and flowers that grow higher up. It is also possible to build up these front shapes, and you know that the structure will still have focus. Can add in a little bit of a grass shape, alluding to some of these patches right here. Because some of the ink washes are still wet, they would be able to blend into in some places and have hard edges on the other shapes. And that's it. It's basically another 10-minute drawing with ink wash and pen marks. And that is going to be it from me today, guys. If you like this kind of videos, please give it a thumbs up, drop a comment, and hit subscribe. It really helps to support this channel if you do that. And I hope to see you next time for more sketch ventures and hopefully a change of scene without this gloomy weather. Take care, guys. Bye.